Hey, Moneymakers, welcome to another episode of Taking Stock Live. I'm your host, Kalila Enriquez Reynolds. It's my pleasure to be here with you yet another week, and I'm especially glad that you are tuning in live because I know you have other things to do tonight, especially if you are in or from Jamaica. A lot of you are watching the Reggae Boys match tonight versus Bermuda. I understand it's halftime right now, and Jamaica are up 3-0. A lot on the line. The stakes are high on the road to the World Cup. And of course, we're going to be keeping our eye on that. I'll give you the update since you chose to tune in here. I'll keep following the score for you throughout the night. Tonight, by the way, it's going to be just me and you talking heart to heart in segment 1. And then later on in our analyst segment, we are going to be looking at a couple of things, actually, how to spot the hero of your portfolio. There are a few things on my mind tonight. I want to hear what's on your mind as well. But don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, share with a friend, let them know Taking Stock is on, and pop in. And we are going to do what we have to do to finish the year strong because it's the last quarter, Q4 of 2025 already. Also, remember to subscribe to the newsletter at getmoneynews.com. And let me know in the chat what part of Jamaica or what part of the world you are joining us from. Now, come on, let's get this money.
But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
Lasco Manufacturing is expanding its production by adding a new processing and filling line to its St. Catherine factory. The company said the new line is expected to boost beverage output by 40% and should be up and running in 3 months. Lasco said the investment is part of a wider $1.1 billion retooling that will run through 2026. Net profits for LASM rose 8% to $2.2 billion for the financial year ended March 2025. A St. Catherine player just hit the $57 million lotto jackpot. This is the second time the jackpot has been won this year. In August, a St. Andrew woman took home a massive $229 million jackpot. According to its financial report, Supreme Venture brought in $1.1 billion in gaming revenue in Q2, while net profits jumped 63% to $776 million. United Kingdom Export Finance says it will be increasing its financing capacity for Guyana to 3 billion euros. Guyanese officials say the move is a powerful signal of London's strong and growing confidence in the country's economy. The extra support will boost development in priority sectors. The private sector is also expected to benefit from more financing, to expand operations and form partnerships with British companies. OpenAI, creators of ChatGPT, says it will be teaming up with manufacturer Broadcom to design and build its own specialized computer chips. The company said OpenAI will design the semiconductors, while Broadcom handles development and production. The move is the latest in a series of announcements by OpenAI as it seeks to strengthen its position as the top generative AI company. In September, NVIDIA announced that it would be investing up to $100 million in OpenAI to build out its AI infrastructure.
What's Hot was brought to you by JMMB Group, your best interest at heart.
If you're ready to level up your money, make sure you get a copy of my brand new Money Mission workbook. Get it at Fontana Pharmacy in Jamaica or worldwide on Amazon.com. Learn how to manage your money, manage your debt, and start investing to create wealth. Let's get this money. All right, welcome back. So let me see who we have joining us this evening. Vice was the first person to comment who said, well, let's see what, Vice? What are you trying to see? Nana Sense is joining us from far away, coming lived or live. I think he means live from far away. Let's get this money. Dwight is joining us from Spanish Town as always. Ingrid checking in from Bull Bay, St. Andrew. Cheesy is in Mobay. Dwight still hoping for a good ending in the market for 2025. We have Anthony saying greetings. Is class on for tonight? Absolutely. Andel is in Mobay. He says lots of rain down here. Antoinette is in Black River saying good evening. Let's make that dinero. Raquel shouting out the money makers. You know Raquel is our like police. Always reminding you to hit the like button. Humble Boss saying good night investors. I think the market will be better going into 2026. Supervillain is in the grill. We've got BCL in Portland. Reconstruction wants to know what are the emerging sectors that look most promising for 2026 on the JSC. Garfield is in Spanish Town. Roswell is in Unity Hall. Malik all the way in Massachusetts. Red Hill is in Trinidad and Tobago. Philip is in TCI. Orlando in Grange Hill. And we got a lot of people here. TJH Army is up, up, up. People saying greetings. So a few things on my mind this evening as we wrap up Q4. By the way, we are heading into our 6th anniversary of the show on the 29th of October. Taking Stock will be 6. Can you imagine? It's been almost 6 years since we started this show, and I appreciate every single one of you for being here. Time goes so fast. We're already in Q4 of the year. My top keeps sliding down a little bit. Yeah. Figure it out. But yeah, we're in Q4 already. We're 2 weeks into October. Today is the 14th. And so we only have a few months to go before the end of the year. And I wonder how many of us, how many of you are on track with your goals for the year? What were the financial goals that you set out for yourself in January? Take a moment to think. Take a moment to maybe open your notes app. Were there any things that you wrote down in January or even in December last year, 2024, as the things that you wanted to achieve in 2025? And it may be financial, it may be otherwise, it may be some type of life change or life improvement. But what progress have you made towards those goals in 2025? I want you to take a moment to just reflect on that. What progress, and share it if you want to, what progress have you made so far in 2025? And then also think about what is there that you can do to end 2025 strong here in Q4 as we round out the year, as we have our last couple of months to truly make an impact. That's one of the things on my mind today, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and on what you are doing. Trust me, 2025 has been a tough year for me on pretty much all fronts. So for me, just surviving the year has been major. And that's one thing I give thanks for, that we're still here, that we made it, that I'm still standing, that things are still going fairly well. Because you think, there are times when you reflect on how far you've come, right? And also how far you have to go. Like today, the past couple of days, yesterday, my brother is visiting from Belize, and I took him around Kingston. I was showing him, some of the new developments, some of the rich neighborhoods in Kingston and what they look like now compared to the last time he was here over 10 years ago. And just reflecting on, the things that have been happening in the economy and in the real estate landscape since then. And he was pretty amazed at, the speed at which Kingston in particular has been developing. And I just think about all those times when we reflect on the things that we want to achieve and the path that is ahead. And then you realize, 10 years ago, I would have been so grateful to know that I am where I am today. 10 years ago, the me of 10 years ago would be so proud of the me today. And I'm hoping that those of you watching right now can say the same. That the you of today is somebody that the you of 10 years ago would be so proud of. And if it feels like your life is stagnant and you're not really making any progress, and the you of 10 years ago would be disappointed in the you of today, then we have time to make a change so that the you of the next 10 years in 2035 can look back at this person here on October 14, 2025 and say, wow, we truly have come a long way. Because sometimes we don't see it. In those everyday incremental changes, you don't notice it. But then when you step back or you leave the country for 10 years, like my brother did, because he's not from here, and then you come back and you see all the progress, it really is a remarkable thing to experience. Raquel says, the me of 10 years ago would be saying, you go, awesome, you go, you, Congratulations, Raquel. I love that for you. And I'm thinking about, I don't know where this building was. When did 20 South, that building on South Avenue, go up? I think it's about 5 years ago. And when 20 South opened, that was the big deal in Kingston. We're like, whoa, it's big building, so many stories, one of the tallest residential complexes, if not the tallest at the time, in Kingston. And now there's another one going up in the vicinity that makes 20 South look short. It makes 20 South look small. And it's amazing to see, all of these things happening. I was going through a real estate website today, and it's bare apartments, trying to find a house. And I think that's just the reality that we have to accept, that Kingston is becoming that city. We say that we want to get to developed level status. This is part of what developed level status looks like. This is what housing looks like in those countries that we want to emulate. And this is, it comes with its pros and cons. We all aspire to the nice house with the big yard and having a mango tree in the yard and an ackee tree in the yard. That is not necessarily the reality of the places that many of us want to live in, the developed world, so to speak. So there are things that you have to give up in the favor of progress. And there are things that, negatives come with it too. It's not all good. We always look at America and look at, these developed nations and say it's so shiny and new, and we want that fast-paced life. But at the same time, we also have to think about the things that we are willing to give up in the name of that. And I think about it all the time because I'm here on Wellington Drive. The studio is here on Wellington, and Wellington has just changed so much. The road has been so dug up, and I just have to face that reality every single day. So the next thing that I wanted to bring up was this whole investment grade conversation, because I think about us turning a corner as a nation. And I think I did a TBL on this recently, the bottom line, talking about in 2 years, when we hit that debt to GDP target, how Jamaica's economic trajectory is going to take off. This is my prediction for the next couple of years. We're expected to hit that debt to GDP target by 2027. Imagine coming from 150% in 2012, one of the highest debt levels in the world in 2012. Experiencing that entire transitionary period, the bitter medicine, all the austerity that came in between, and then completely turning it around to having one of the lowest debt levels in the region, being on the verge of listed as investment grade. We're now at double B minus, double B. I think it's at double B with a positive outlook. And then it goes to double B plus, and then the triple B range, which is so close, which is going to free up so much more funds for us as a nation at better interest rates, which is going to allow other investors, international investors, to look at Jamaica through a different lens and say, yes, my money is relatively safe here. This is a country where I can put my money, which is going to attract more levels of foreign direct investment, and the pace at which this country is developing is going to accelerate. And so it made me think about economic cycles. And there's actually a chapter in the Money Mission workbook about exactly that. It's called The World is a Cycle, inspired by the Richie Spice song, The World is a Cycle. Going in a circle. And I want to read just a quick excerpt from that. So this is what page is this? Page 99. That chapter, The World is a Cycle. Double-digit inflation was the norm for Jamaica in the 1990s. According to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, the island's inflation peaked at a whopping 77% in 1992. There's some of you who are old enough to remember that. 77% inflation. Right now we're at 4%. Imagine 77% inflation. The year 2008, the start of the global financial crisis, also stands out with inflation of 22%. More recently, in 2022, as the world faced supply chain issues following the COVID-19 pandemic, Jamaica recorded inflation of over 10%. Devaluation of the local currency has also been a major issue for the island over the years. Did you know there was a time, sorry, I'm kind of out of breath, is because I was drinking a beverage, and it's made my mouth kind of broadcasting 101. You're not supposed to eat or drink before you go on air, and I broke that rule. Anyway, did you know there was a time when the Jamaican dollar was stronger than the US dollar? According to data from the Bank of Jamaica, between 1972 and 1977, you only needed 91 cents Jamaican to buy $1 US. By the time I moved here in 2008, $1 US cost about $73. This was after a period of crippling devaluation in the 90s. It only got worse in the decade to follow as Jamaica underwent further devaluation under a series of IMF programs. Today, the Jamaican dollar trades at close to 160 to 1 US. Now, as someone who's lived through the impact of these policies, I can testify to how hard inflation and devaluation made my life and the lives of many people, and I know you guys can testify to that as well. This is especially true as an island that depends on imports, because we earn in Jamaican dollars, but foreign goods are imported in US dollars. When the value of the local currency falls, it takes more of that currency to buy the same item. And it goes on explaining about how we live in different economic cycles. So there are times when the economy is doing poorly, and similarly with the stock market, there are times when the stock market is going to be down, and right now is still one of those times. But when you live through various cycles, when you've lived long enough, you come to realize that there are times of plenty and there are times of lean. Even the Bible alludes to it. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of lean. And I think that in my life, the past couple of years have been some of those years of lean. I'm not going to lie. It's been a few lean years right now. But I feel like we're about to turn a corner in the next couple of years, like within 2 to 5 years. And I imagine what Jamaica will be like, what my personal circumstances will be like. And it helps to give yourself that vision of what you want it to be like in the next 5 to 10 years. Because when you think about it like that, when you think about it in that context, it helps you to make the right decisions today. When you know that prices are depressed, things are not where they should be, this is the time for you to build up that foundation. This is the time for you to make those investments, as small as they may be, and reap the rewards in 5 to 10 years. And the thing about it is that most people tend to do the opposite. Most people tend to say, things are bad now, I'm not going to do anything right now because it's not looking great, because people want instant gratification. But I have to continue to urge you to be consistent and stay in it for the long run. Think long term. I keep coming back to Warren Buffett's favorite quote: be greedy when others are fearful. And right now, people are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. Most people do the opposite. Most people wait on the hype. In 2019, y'all were buying NCB stock at $220 because somebody said, oh, NCB is going to go to 1,000. And you drank that Kool-Aid and you jumped on the train and you jumped on the hype. And then the opposite happened. But now that the stock is low, you have an opportunity to buy at a very low price so that when the recovery happens, you take advantage and you sell at a high price. And that is the philosophy behind the investing, behind real estate, behind any level of asset class. Same thing happened with crypto. Now that crypto is high, crypto passed $100,000, everybody want to jump on Bitcoin. But a few years ago during COVID, when Bitcoin was 20,000, 18,000, nobody wanted it. And a few years later, here comes the recovery. You missed the opportunity. You want to jump in on the hype, and that's not the way it goes. All right, let's take a few comments. Let me see what you guys have to say this morning. Ezekiel says, I thought TJH would have been better. It's not bad. Given the circumstances, it has been one of the better performing stocks, even through COVID, even still paying consistent dividends, for example. But give it a couple of years. Raquel is telling people to like the video. Ezekiel says, true, never thought it would have been so good. Supervillain says, I did well, but I can do better as we speak. Raquel says, no house in Kingston. Yeah, trust me, it's bare apartments, and you're seeing 3-bedroom apartment too. So some large apartments, and still the same price as a house. Reconstruction says, the present me would beat the me 10 years ago that he didn't read and invest sooner. Exactly. Supervillain says, Jamaica have a problem with corruption and crime. That's the thing holding Jamaica back. That is so true. I'm grateful to see the gains that have been made in the fight against crime. I feel like the JCF is doing a pretty good job in reducing the murder rate and also developing a stronger rapport with the Jamaican public, which I think they have been able to probably turn a point in culture, getting people, for example, through Wanted Wednesdays, to get the public on their side, to report the criminals. I think that has a lot to do with the progress that they have made. There have been so many studies showing the impact of crime on productivity and on Jamaica's economy over the years. Can you imagine if we didn't have to spend so much on security? As a business, one of your biggest costs in Jamaica, of doing business in Jamaica, is going to be security. Simply securing the premises, making sure that you have somewhere secure, making sure that your employees are safe, making sure that your inventory and your assets are safe and protected and aren't going to be stolen. And for some businesses, paying that extortion fee is just a regular cost of doing business. And we need to get to a point where that is not the case. Andel says, looking back, life has been great, inspired of my personal challenges. Raquel says, Jamaica forgetting its fundamentals is breaking us. What fundamentals are you referring to, Raquel? Orville says, bingo, this administration normalizing corruption. Nicole says, I want to know when coming back to Jamaica, is the investment part in Jamaica going to be like my S&P 500 in the US? Now, listen, comparing Jamaica to the US or the JSE to the S&P 500 is comparing apples and oranges. You have to think about how many years of progress it took for the United States and the S&P 500 to get to that point where they are now, and all the hills and valleys that they had to go through to get to where they were. Remember, the United States went through the Great Depression in the 1920s, partially triggered by Black Friday, the origin of the term Black Friday, and those massive losses on Wall Street. So even the great United States went through their trials, went through their errors before we saw the economy that has emerged today. Jamaica is a much younger democracy than the United States. And so we have to go through our growing pains as well. But eventually, if we stick to the current trajectory, I believe we're going to get there. Raquel says, when we're great, we're great. We are our own worst enemy. Moments with Stay says, I'm late. I hope I didn't miss much. It's just me and you powering for right now, Moments with Stace. I'd love to hear your views as well. Ezekiel says, but SSL have a bad taste in investors' minds, including everybody. And once again, every economy goes through their issues. In the United States, you had the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. So SSL is one instance that Jamaica had to grapple with of corruption and theft. The United States has had its large share of similar schemes as well. Never forget it. No country and no person is immune to that type of thing happening. Nicole says, I invested in a stock that Mr. Leachin spoke about on your show. Guess what? I'm making a lot of money off of that stock now. What stock was that? I don't remember him mentioning a very specific stock. I took a chance and it worked out very good for me. Well, good for you. Ryan says Jamaican dollar is bad for a while, but when inflation hits USA, Jamaica is going to feel it twofold. Sigh. I was thinking about that as well, the value of the Jamaican dollar, because I'm thinking, okay, if the economy is improving, and I was just talking to my brother about this as well, because he's telling me, 10 years ago when he was here, the dollar was at like 100 to 1, and now we're at 160. And he's asking me, he said, well, if the economy is improving, why is the dollar getting worse? And that's a fair point. Why is the dollar still going south? Why is the dollar still losing value? There are a couple of answers to that question. One, there was a period where it was unwritten and unspoken economic policy for the Jamaican dollar to be devalued. And that was a period under the IMF between 2012 and 2016. They didn't want to say it out loud that they wanted and needed, and that was part of the agreement that the Jamaican dollar would have to slide. But it was unofficial, unspoken, unwritten policy that the dollar is going to have to lose some value. Now, two, thinking about how does the dollar actually regain value? The value of the Jamaican dollar to the US dollar relies heavily on how much US dollars we are able to earn. We earn US dollars primarily through tourism and through exports, and three, through remittances. How much money our people abroad are sending back home? Three major sources of US dollars. Now, tourism has grown. We can see that we have more seats, more airline seats coming to Jamaica, more visitors than ever coming to Jamaica. So we can see that, yes, we're earning more US dollars there. But the big opportunity is with exports. We have to be selling stuff, and we're great at selling services. Our tourism product as a service, we're not so great at selling stuff, manufactured goods, to earn US dollars. And if you recall that conversation I had with Richard Biles here on the show last week, we're not so good at that. Why? Because the cost of energy is so high. It is prohibitive to produce anything of substance here in Jamaica for export because electricity cost is so high. And so that impacts our ability to earn US dollars. But where Jamaica does earn a lot is through tourism and now through BPOs, so through services. And the beauty about selling services is that anybody can do it. I'm doing it right now, hosting the show on YouTube, earning ad revenue in US dollars from YouTube, from this new global economy. And it often doesn't require a huge investment to start selling your services as an individual online and helping this country to earn US dollars. Now, will the value of the Jamaican dollar ever go back up? I hope it does, but will it? I don't know. That is another thing that remains to be seen. Ryan says the Jamaican dollar, oh, I read that one already. Orville says moving the goalpost each year, the talent story. We all need to be thankful. Buy high and sell low. That's what most people do, buy high. And then when things crash or when things get bad, they panic and sell low. You need to do the opposite. Noel says, good night, investors taking stock. Did you see what happened with Lasco manufacturing and distribution? No. What happened, Noel? Tell me. Moments with Stace, wish I understood investing earlier in life. Basilio, nuclear energy is the way to Jamaicans' future. Dominique, how How does the economic cycle influence long-term investments? It really is a psychological thing. Just being aware that the world moves in cycles, that there are up cycles and there are down cycles, helps you to understand that when you're going through that down cycle, this too shall pass. And eventually what is low is going to go back up. And what is high is going to go back down. So just understanding the cyclical nature of investments. Antoinette says the psychology of money is a great read. It allows you to keep a steady head during the financial storm. Supervillain, take my foolish advice, TJH and Wigton. Noel says cybersecurity is a problem. That's true. Oren, hail to the TJH army, buying and holding. Nah, sell, my favorite listing on the JSC. Mr. Daz says our country is moving in the right direction. We have had many similar SSL situations overseas. All right, with that said, let's take our break. Oh, before I take the break, I do have to take our poll question. So yes, time for tonight's poll question. Are you interested? Interesting question. Are you interested in investing in gold? So gold, as you may have heard, has hit a record high. I think it's $4,000 for 1 ounce of gold right now. Are you interested in investing in gold? Once again, we talk about the economic cycles, ties right back into the conversation that we were just having. So during times of economic uncertainty, the price of gold tends to go up. And I did a bottom line on this recently as well, explaining about some of the economic uncertainties right now, especially with Donald Trump doing what Trump does best, Trump being Trump, causing economic uncertainty globally. And as a result, investors are hoarding gold. So are you interested in investing in gold? A, I already do. B, yes, I want to. C, no, not interested. Or other, leave a comment. Is gold something that you would invest in? And, in doing the research for that piece, because we were wondering, okay, why are people like really heavily investing in gold right now? And there is kind of an apocalyptic doomsday kind of thinking that if all else fails, the economy crumbles to crap and paper money, paper currency is no longer worth anything, because it really is, when you think about it, just paper. We can always fall back on gold. Gold will always be valuable. It is an asset in your hand, a tangible asset. So are you interested in investing in gold? A, I already do. B, yes, I want to. C, no, not interested. Or other, leave a comment. Leave your answers in the chat, and you can take the poll over on the community tab of our channel. Up next, we've got your market recap, and our analyst is standing by. Market Recap is brought to you by My Money JA, the official data partner of Money Media. Get 10% off your subscription with the code MONEYMISSION. The JSE Combined Index fell 1,300 points last week. 126 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week ending Friday, October 10, 2025. 54 made gains, 52 lost value, and 20 stayed the same. 63 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at $468 million. Transjam was the week's most traded stock, with 15 million shares changing hands. It started the week at $4.08. Wigton was up about 1% to start Monday at 21 cents, and Sagicor Select Funds Manufacturing and Distribution rounded out last week's most traded stocks, up 2%. Now let's see who had the biggest gains. Medical Disposables and Supplies was the JSE's top stock, up 20% to open the week at $1.70. Cygnus Real Estate Finance USD was the second biggest gainer, up 17%, and Kintyre Holdings rounded out the top stocks, up 9%. On the losing side now, JPS 7% preference shares lost almost 16% to start the new week at $37.90. MPC Caribbean Clean Energy fell 15% to open Monday at $42.50, and Palace Amusement also lost 15%. Over on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index was mostly flat last week. NCBFG was the TTSE's most traded stock. It opened Monday at $1.93 TT. West Indian Tobacco was the TTSE's top gainer, up 13%. And on the losing side, Massey fell 4% to open Monday at $3.64 TT. Over in the U.S., the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and the NASDAQ all lost about 3% last week. At the pumps, the cost of 87 gas fell $2.97 last week, while 90 fell $3.06. Meanwhile, diesel prices also dipped $3.06. In foreign exchange trading, it took an average $161.62 Jamaican to purchase $1 last Friday. That's 28 cents less than the week before. $1 Canadian cost an average $115.47 Jamaican. $1 British pound cost $216.27 Jamaican, and you could buy €1 for $189.97 Jamaican on average. Finally, on the crypto markets, Bitcoin prices fell 7% over the past 5 days, trading at $114,384 on Monday. Meanwhile, Ethereum dipped nearly 9%, trading at $4,127 on Monday. Market Recap was brought to you by MyMoneyJA, the official data partner of Money Media. Subscribe to my newsletter for money news like this straight to your inbox. Go to getmoneynews.com to sign up. The link is in my bio. Let's get this money. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Sagicor Investments. The views expressed in this segment are not necessarily the views of Money Media. This information is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Welcome back. Let me see what you guys are saying about gold. What do you feel about gold? Oh, by the way, the Reggae Boys scored again. So we're now up 4-0 against Bermuda. Congratulations to the Reggae Boys. So Raquel says B, asking, how do you feel about gold? Are you interested in investing in gold? A, I already do. B, yes, I want to. C, not interested. Other, leave a comment. So Raquel says, yes, I want to. X-Ray says, as a Jamaican investor overseas, except for TJH and CAR, I just stick with bonds. Rich Life says, A, been interested from way back. Ezekiel says, I know of people swapping diamond and gold for food. Really? You personally know people swapping diamond and gold for food? But I'm sure it happens in times of severe economic uncertainty. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the must-hold, says gold is the must-hold asset. Levane says gold is also risky. In the Great Depression, when the system failed, government seized its citizens' gold in the name of public good. So keep that in mind. It can happen again. Oren says, no gold for me at this time, but we'll think about it. Stocks and crypto to Mating. Sherwayne says, U.S. stock exchange ran red last week, losing 1.3 trillion, while S&P 500 went down 130 billion. What does this mean? It means that they're in a cycle. Sherwayne says gold is too expensive. $4,000 for 1 ounce of gold. 1 ounce. That is not, when you think about the gold bars that you see on TV, that's not an ounce, you know. A pound is 16 ounces. And a gold bar, I just looked it up, a gold bar is 27.4 pounds. 27.4 pounds. A pound is 16 ounces. 1 ounce costs $4,000. Let me see, how much does a gold bar cost? 16,000. I could just Google it. I don't know how much for one of the gold bars. 16 ounces, 4,000 US times 16 ounces, 64,000 for 1 pound times 27.4, 1.7 million, 1.7 million US dollars for a gold bar. That is a whole heap of money. It is very expensive indeed. But our friends over at HFM do facilitate investment in gold. You're not going to get a gold bar in your hand. Obviously, it costs 1.7 million US dollars, but you can invest in gold using HFM. The link is in the description if you are interested in doing that. Levine says, can't buy gold jewelry for Christmas. Yep. You know how that is. It's super expensive. All right, let's introduce our guest for market recap for the analysts. And of course, right as I'm about to introduce my guest, I get signed out. So hold on, let me just sign back in. Our guest this evening is from Sagicor Investments, and her name is Eugenia Wilson. Eugenia is an investment advisor at Sagicor Investments. Welcome, Eugenia.
Hi, happy to be here.
Great to have you on. So tonight we are looking at assessing your high-performing stocks and how to spot the hero of your portfolio. So how do you do that, Eugenia? I think as we go into Q4, it's a perfect time to look at that topic to assess our portfolio.
That's a great question. So as we approach year end, it's always a good time to pause and reflect, not just on our national heroes, but on the heroes in our portfolios. Which investments have really served us well, which might need a little reshuffling. And, Heroes Day is right before year end. And it's a perfect reminder that, to do a quick financial health check before we step into 2026. And before we even get into naming those heroes, it's a good time to talk about how to actually manage them.
Right. So what are the things that we need to be looking out for right now?
All right. So, start off by checking your target mix. Maybe you began the year wanting, say, 70% in growth assets and 30% of your portfolio in defensive ones like bonds or money market funds. But if, for example, one of your star performers has grown faster than the rest, which we all hope for, that balance might shift from 70-30 to 80-15, or 85-10. That's your cue to trim a little your profit and reallocate to the areas that have been left behind. So it's not just about selling your winners, it's about keeping your portfolio healthy and in proportion.
Okay, so all right, so that's one strategy that you can take. Why is it important for investors to rebalance their portfolios, though, especially at the end of the year?
It's a good question. So when one part of your portfolio start performing really well, it can throw off your original balance. That's where portfolio rebalancing comes in. Think of it like tidying your investment closet. Over time, you have your favorite pieces that you tend to hoard, or in this case, your best performers. It start taking up, a lot of space in your portfolio. So it's a good time, to take some profits, reset your foundation, and, see what direction you can go from there.
Mm-hmm. No, if you have winners, you are also bound to have losers. How do we handle the losers in our portfolio?
So, yeah, that's a good question. So when the stock is down, don't panic. Ask yourself one key question. Has the stock changed or just the price? If the company still has, solid fundamentals and long-term potential, that's where dollar cost averaging can actually help. With dollar cost averaging, you can invest small, consistent amounts over time instead of trying to time the market. It's like, catching your favorite stock on sale. You lower your average overall cost per share and position yourself for stronger gains when the market rebounds. But, remember, that only works if the company's fundamentals remain strong. If the story hasn't truly changed about the company, if the story has truly changed, for example, poor management, weak industry outlook, that's when you cut your losses, and we recommend reallocating to different type of investments.
So explain to me how I would do dollar cost averaging. Like, give me an example of how it works.
The first thing I said to my clients, buy the dip. So you used the example earlier with NCB. A lot of persons wanted NCB when it was riding high, and when the stock price went down where it is now, other persons don't want to buy. They buy the high and they sell the low. The key thing with dollar cost averaging, buy the dip. That's the best thing I can say. Over time, you gradually, in small increments, you buy that stock at a lower price. So at the end of the day, when company decides, when the company rebounds, you have a better chance to have a really good, cap gain.
Well, it's not just about buying the dip when we're doing dollar cost averaging. You are
Right.
buying at whatever price. The point
Yeah.
is being consistent. So
Exactly.
I'm putting in the same amount every single month or every single week or whatever regular intervals I've decided on, regardless of the price, regardless of whether the price is high or low. The point is to just continue being
Be
consistent.
consistent. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on right now globally, and I was talking about it in the previous segment. And a lot of these things either directly or indirectly affect Jamaica. We see President Trump, making his erratic decisions, or at least what seems erratic to us sometimes. We see things affecting the Jamaica Stock Exchange. We see things affecting the Jamaican market. What are some of the factors that investors should be considering right now when assessing their portfolios?
And that's a very good question. Right now, investors really should assess what their targets are. So, before you go into buying any company, you should determine whether or not you are in it for the income or in it for the growth. And if you're deciding to, for example, purchase a particular company with the intention to get income from it, through dividend payments, of course, consistency really plays a part right there. If you are going into it for growth, frequent portfolio rebalancing is very important, and you pay attention to what's happening in the news.
For example, what are some of the things that we should be looking out for that could potentially impact our portfolio?
Sorry, could you go ahead?
I said, for example, what are some of the things that could potentially impact our portfolios?
Based on what's happening in the economy overseas, that those factors that can impact your portfolio, because whatever happens in America right now, for example, the Trump administration, that can indirectly and directly impact what's happening in our economy here. So, for example, for example, like those stuff.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Eugenia. We appreciate your input this evening.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Eugenia is an investment advisor at Sagicor Investments. That's Eugenia Wilson. Let me take a few more of your comments. Orville says, average down. Rich Life Habits says, that's why it's best to read quarterly reports so you don't panic too. That's true. Who else do we have? Cheesy says, that's why sometimes it's best to get rid and move on. Sometimes we need to know when to sell. That's also true. Sometimes you have to know when to just get out. Inga Baby, dollar cost averaging is buying when the stock is high and buying when the stock is low. Always be buying. And we have Roswell. I sold one stock I hold in one account and buy up another. My portfolio went up 5%. I still will buy back that stock as soon as I can. That's portfolio management. All right, we take our final break and come back with more. This section of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Sagicor Investments. Beg your favor now. If you've purchased the Money Mission Workbook and you've read it already, you've done the exercises and you find it valuable, please leave me a review. Go to the link in my bio to leave a review. Thank you. All right, I see a couple more comments here talking about how your year has been so far. Malik said it started off horrible, but it's getting better. Glad to hear that, Malik. Resilience is the key. And Humble Boss says this year was challenging, but it's ending smooth. Have to give thanks. I am so grateful. And Allison bigging up Eugenia. So thank you for tuning in. Yet another week where any change in the match score? Any change from the Reggae Boys? We're still at 4-0. All right, congratulations so far to the Reggae Boys. It's unlikely that Bermuda will overcome a 4-0 score. So early congratulations going out to the Reggae Boys on the road to the World Cup. Thank you for tuning in. Earlier, I read for you a passage from the chapter called "The World is a Cycle" in the Money Mission Workbook. Remember that you can get this book on Amazon. You can get it on 7 Crave Marketplace. You can just go to moneymissionja.com and get your copy. You can go to your local Fontana pharmacy and get your copy. I believe they're almost sold out at a couple of locations. But if you're looking for it locally, 7th Grade Marketplace, moneymissionja.com. And always you can get your copy on amazon.com as well. Thank you for joining us yet another week. Remember to subscribe to the newsletter at getmoneynews.com. That's getmoneynews.com. You can get all our financial education content at moneymissionja.com. You can get all of our media content at moneymediaja.com. You can book me for events at KalilaReynolds.com and follow us all over social media. Pretty easy to find. I'm at kalila.money or at moneymediaja. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you again next week.